So I made one little mistake in the last video, and I wanted to add a move Y input event. So I'm just going to hit plus here. I'm going to copy this move underscore X, paste it in here, and this is going to be our W and S key. So go ahead and add two more inputs here. Let's expand that out a little bit. Let's add another input here. And we're essentially going to set them up the same. So instead of gamepad button A here, we're going to go with a keyboard event, and then we are going to select W, and then for the next event we are going to select keyboard, and we want to select S here, and I'm going to go ahead and junk these out too. Before I junk the S, just remember this was set to -1 and they were both set to 0.2 for the dead zone. So let's go ahead, and W looks good. Just need to change that dead zone to 0.2. S is -1, and we need to set the dead zone to 0.2. Alright, let's go ahead and hook this up. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control S in here to save this. Alright, so at the top here, let's go to Tools, Script Canvas, and let's do File, New Script. Let's do File, Save As, and for the file name, I'm going to name it Player, and I can just leave it in. For here, for now, I'll just leave it inside of here. I guess we could do a separate folder called Player, which maybe we'll do that, and we'll throw all of our player scripts inside of here, inside this player folder. So let's open that up, and then let's save that. Now notice that our input, we have a input script here, right? That's attached to it, this input component rather. So what I want to do is type input here, and you'll notice that there are a bunch of nodes associated with input. Oops. So this is a good way of just kind of checking out which, like, if you want to see what, if you type in mesh or whatever, what kind of nodes can be used with it. And we're looking for the, there's like different types. There's on post, on hold, on press, all this other stuff. What we're looking for is the input handler. So see how it says handle processed input events found in input binding assets? Remember we bound that ad set player. So if I left click on this and I just drag this in the scene, you could see here's our input handler. Now what it's saying, it's asking for, well, if something is pressed, held, or released, which is really cool. Let me kind of expand this out just a little bit. Now the first thing that most, when you're learning a certain language, and scripting is kind of like a programming language, right? Because you're using programming concepts, is everybody has you print hello world. What we're going to do is print when a button is pressed. So if I push WASD, it'll print that value -1 or whatever to the console. So what I want to do is when I hold down the button, we're going to use that as our way of firing off, but we don't know what value we're going to be doing. Well, the value is connected here, but oops, let's connect that again. So where we're going to get the value is from the event name. Remember we created this move Y here? I'm actually going to click in here and copy that. So Control C, just so the spelling is in, and paste that in there. Now let's go ahead and hit File and then just save this. And it says player saved, which is a good sign. So if I shrink this down for a second, and you could always bring it back by going to game, or sorry, tools, and then just do script canvas. Now we don't actually, here's our essentially our player before we replace it with our maintenance worker. We're going to replace this essentially with the 3D model later, but for now on our player model here, what we want to do is we want to add a script component. So here's our script canvas component, and we're just going to add that here. Now you probably guessed it, what we want to do is actually add that script inside here. So we can either drag that in from our scripts folder, from our asset browser, or what we can do is, so here's our player, here's the one we created, we can drag that in, or you can look for it here by digging through the digging the asset browser through that file explorer. So now we've actually connected the script canvas to our player. Now if you remember before I closed the console window, so you can actually hit the tilde key and it'll open up your console. I'm going to right click and clear so we can see that we can see only what we want to do, which is pushing our key binding. So I'm going to go ahead and either hit Control G or press this play button to enter play mode. And you can see here, actually this is kind of an interesting to show you. Because we added that physics, the rigid body physics material, if I press play, look what happens. My ball falls to the ground. And then the last thing I want to show you is our actual keys working. So you can see as I'm holding down the A key or the D key, it pumps out those values. Now notice it's saying -1 and then 1. That little dash there is just breaking it up. And the reason for that is in between, I had to pause it for a second in the video. I was just switching between to make sure that both were working. So when you go into script canvas, all you want to do is double check. Here's move -x. Make sure that, these are the, and honestly, if you put an underscore there, you really can just do Y and then lowercase x. So I'm going to hit Control S to save that. And you can change this to lowercase y. Make sure you click in here and you'll see a little asterisk here, meaning it's not saved, and hit Control S to save. And hopefully that's working for us. Let's see. 2 elements, A and D. Let's hit escape on that. Oh, you know why? We never saved this guy. That's our problem. Alright, let's try this again. So remember, always save. There we go. So now I'm pushing W and S, and those are working. Alright, that's it for this one. In the next video, we'll make the ball actually move. Remember, a lot of this stuff I'm pulling from the documentation. If you're like me, the early baby Alex who hated documentation, I'll do my best to sort of explain this. This is also part of my path to learning this. I'm also integrating a lot of, remember, 2 parts. One half is the tech art part, where you're like making the actual art, and the second part is the tech part, where we're hooking it up and we're going to be doing some scripting.